The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zexhi's claws scraped against the polished obsidian table. The towering Korthak warrior, standing nearly 3 meters tall with chitinous armor that had deflected plasma bolts in a dozen, Wars looked down at the human delegation with what could only be described as disdain. "You cannot be serious," Zexhi's voice rumbled through the translator, each word dripping with incredulity. "These soft skins wish to join our military alliance?" Commander Sarah Chen, representing the Terran Federation, maintained her composure, despite being dwarfed by the assembled alien warriors. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 17 different species, each one a proven military power, regarded humanity with expressions ranging from amusement to outright dismissive laughter. "The humans lack even basic protective carapaces," chittered Veltar, the insectoid delegate from the hive worlds. "Their bones are hollow calcium structures. Their skin tears at the slightest contact. They require atmospheric support to survive in most environments." "Indeed," added General Morthak of the silicon-based Christine Empire, his voice like grinding stone. "My species has conquered 14 systems. The Korthak have claimed 37 worlds through superior military might. The Zephyrians have never lost a space battle. What could these fragile beings possibly contribute to our forces?" Sarah stood slowly, her 5'6" frame insignificant among the giants. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than words. The chamber erupted in what passed for laughter among the various species, a cacophony of clicks, roars, and electronic pulses. Zexhi's mandibles spread wide in what humans might recognize as a predatory grin. "A demonstration?" The Korthak ambassador's voice carried dark amusement. "Very well. Let us see what humanity considers warfare." 3 days later, the same delegates gathered in the observation deck above the Nexus Station's combat arena. The circular pit below, reinforced with quantum-stabilized barriers, had hosted countless trials of strength between species seeking membership in the Galactic Military Alliance. In one corner stood Thraktal, a Korthak prime hunter. Even among his own species, he was considered exceptional. 4 meters of predatory evolution, with razor-sharp claws capable of rending starship hulls, mandibles that could crush crystalline, formations and reflexes honed by hunting the galaxy's most dangerous prey. His exoskeleton gleamed like black steel under the arena's harsh lights. In the opposite corner, Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez looked almost comically small. No armor adorned his frame, just standard military fatigues and combat boots. His only visible weapons were a combat knife in his bare hands. "This is absurd," Veltar clicked nervously. "The human will be torn apart within seconds." Zexhi leaned forward, his compound eyes fixed on the arena. "Perhaps this will finally convince them to abandon their foolish aspirations." The arena's countdown began. 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. Thraktal moved with lightning speed, covering half the distance to Marcus in a single bound, claws extended to deliver what should have been a killing blow. The assembled delegates watched with grim satisfaction. This would be over quickly. Marcus moved. It wasn't the desperate scramble the aliens expected. Instead, the human seemed to simply disappear. One moment he was directly in Thraktal's path. The next he had somehow rolled beneath the Korthak's strike, his knife flashing in a precise arc that found the single weak point where the hunter's leg joint met his torso. Black ichor sprayed across the arena floor. Thraktal roared in pain and surprise, spinning with reflexes that had never failed him before. His massive claws swept through empty air. The human had already moved, ghosting, behind the Korthak with impossible fluidity. What? How did he? General Morthak's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Marcus struck again, his knife finding another joint, then another. Each cut was surgical, precise, targeting weaknesses that shouldn't have been visible to alien eyes. But humans, the delegates were beginning to realize, had spent millions of years learning to kill things much larger and stronger than themselves. Thraktal, growing desperate, launched himself backward to crush the smaller opponent against the arena wall. The impact should have turned the human into paste. Marcus wasn't there, Instead, the human had somehow used the Korthak's own momentum against him, sliding aside at the last possible moment while his knife traced a line across Thraktal's throat. The Prime Hunter crashed into the barrier, stunned. Before Thraktal could recover, Marcus was on him. What followed wasn't the clean, honorable combat the aliens were used to. It was something far more terrifying, methodical, efficient, and utterly ruthless. The human's hands found pressure points that induced paralysis. His knife opened arteries with surgical precision. When Thraktal tried to grab him, Marcus seemed to flow like water, redirecting the Korthak's strength against himself until joints bent in directions they weren't meant to go. "Stop this," Zexai whispered, his voice barely audible. "Stop this now." But it was too late. Thraktal, the apex predator, the prime hunter who had single-handedly conquered 3 worlds, was being systematically dismantled by a creature half his size. Every advantage the Korthak possessed, strength, speed, natural weapons, armor, was being turned against him by an opponent who fought not with superior physicality, but with intelligence, adaptability, and a kind of violence that spoke of eons spent clawing to the top of the food chain on a death world. When it ended, Thraktal lay motionless in a pool of his own ichor. Marcus stood over him, barely breathing hard, his knife clean and his expression calm. The observation deck was silent. Sarah Chen finally spoke into the stunned quiet. "Humans aren't the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the fastest or the most naturally armored. But we're the only species that spent millions of years as persistence hunters on a planet that tried to kill us every single day." She paused, looking around the chamber at faces that no longer showed dismissive amusement. "We learned to kill mammoths with pointed sticks. We brought down creatures 10 times our size using nothing but teamwork and determination. We survived ice ages, volcanic winters, and plagues that should have ended us. And when we finally reached the stars, we brought all of that with us." Marcus climbed out of the arena, joining his commander. His movements were fluid, economical, those of a predator comfortable in his own skin. "You asked what humans could contribute to your alliance," Sarah continued. "The answer is simple. We're the only species crazy enough to look at something bigger and stronger than us and think, 'I wonder how I could kill that.'" 3 weeks later, the Terran Federation was unanimously accepted into the Galactic Military Alliance. The vote was 17-0. Nobody wanted to find out what would happen if they said no.